What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Take That. And we're returning for the second disc of Progress 2011. Thank you as always to Michaela. And if I'm understanding this correctly, this is the part of the album which was not released as the album from a year earlier, Progress. So this is the progress that has been made, the advancement of what was already there. So yes, if I'm understanding the nature of this two-disc album correctly, the first part or first disc of the album was essentially identical to Progress, but this is material that goes beyond that, and perhaps, again, on a conceptual level, this is the progress that has been made. So either way, I'm excited to go through this, and I still have it in mind to go through some more live performances from that concert in Manchester. Michaela has shared the full video with me, so that is certainly possible. And while I am trying to navigate all the different deep dives, both audio and video, that is something that is on my radar. I have not forgotten, so we will get to that in the coming weeks and months. And yes, the first tune on the second disc is When We Were Young, which sounds reflective. It's implicitly describing change, even though it's not stating it outright. If you are thinking about an earlier time in your life, then at the very least, in terms of your growth, physical, emotional, interpersonal, you are referencing an earlier stage in that process. And as someone who is in middle age now, I certainly can tell the difference in terms of perceptions, physical abilities, and so on, relative to when I was, say, a late teen or in my mid-20s. So yes, I feel like this is likely to be reflective, but given the pronoun we, it seemingly involves at least one other person. Now, it could be speaking more broadly about a group of people, a social circle, maybe even the species as a whole, but my hypothesis in advance is that it refers to the band and perhaps the distance between where they were in the 80s, I'm forgetting the exact timeline, but in their initial heyday relative to here in 2011. It does seem like a number of tunes on this album and on the first part of it that we've gone through are at least partially autobiographical as it relates to the group and the individual members. So I wouldn't be surprised if something similar is happening here. Let's give it a listen. This is Take That, the first tune from the second disc of their 2011 double album, Progress, and it's When We Were Young.
When we were young, the world seemed so old, careless and cold. We did what we were told in our lives. When we were young, had the world by the tail, good would prevail, starships would sail, and none of us would fail in this life. Not when you're young. We were drawn to whoever could keep us together and bound by the heavens above. And we tried to survive, traveling at the speed of love. Whoa, when we were young, when we adored the fabulous. Whoa, when we were young, we were the foolish. look at yourself sometime. Are you someone you recognize? You can take back what you've given away, but it must be the last time. Oh, when we were young. Oh, when we were young. When we were young. When we adored the fabulous. When we were young, we were the foolish, fearless. When we were young, we didn't know it wouldn't last. When we were young.
Beautiful, and I'll try to comment on the Sonics in a minute, though I'll admit those took a back seat because I was so locked into the lyrics as I could try to catch them, and the vocals which delivered them in a very sweet and reflective way. So, yes, to start with the lyrics, I feel like this is actually maybe functioning on 3 levels, which is to say there's lines in there which almost surely relate to the band's history and the members and being a bit naive and the idea that, well, this is just going to work and we've got the world by its tail and, you know, the world is our oyster and we're never going to fail and we can just keep doing anything we want, but being naive and not realizing that they wouldn't be making all the decisions and that the perils of moving, I thought they were going to say at the speed of light, but the speed of love, I think it was. So, yeah, it sounds like there's some band-specific lines about how what they thought in the early phase was perhaps a bit naive, perhaps a bit short-sighted, and is not really what happened in the long run. I feel like it could also be functioning on an individual level about our own live trajectories. I was actually thinking about a line from the film Vanilla Sky, which is a remake of the Spanish film Abre los Ojos. But in that film, the Tom Cruise character, who is like this young, successful publishing entrepreneur and so on, and he's handsome, he's wealthy, he's, very popular and social and so on. And there's this inner narration where he's like, I feel like every young person probably has this thought at some time that, like, maybe I'll be the first person who will live forever, who will never die. And even though I may not have had that thought in a literal sense when I was younger, you do start feeling like, man, I'm always going to be on top of things, and I'm always going to be doing what I want to do, and, maybe I'm going to be able to do things in a way no one has before, and, maybe I'm not going to age, like, I'm not going to become this old world, which this song talks about, that when we were young, the whole world seemed so old and stuck in its ways, and, doing things that we were going to do things differently and so on. So again, in that monologue, he's talking about how when he's young, he feels like, that I'm never going to face failure. I'm never going to grow old and, become unable to do the things that I was, or I'm never going to, fall into what I see as the trappings of people who are just, stuck in their ways and so on. And then lo and behold, you get older and that turns out not to be the case. It was naive. It was, a product of your youth and your youthful thinking. And as you get older, you get wiser, you learn more through experience. My God, do you learn? And so I feel like this can function on a personal level. And I also think maybe there is some legitimacy to the idea that this is functioning on a species level, in part because, talking about, what was it, spaceships sailing into the sky or sailing away, he says a still more glorious dawn awaits. Famously, a line said by Carl Sagan in his Cosmos series, and which was used for a musical track made from some of his vocals, which I believe was the name of the tune, and that I have reacted to here on the channel. And so suddenly I'm thinking about this idea that humanity, and we built these machines, and we're going to go to the stars, and we're going to do things that have never been done, and we're going to do our species proud. And then that's at the very least a more complicated tale. And as Sagan himself talked about, the very things that we send these spaceships into space with are the same technology that can shoot missiles at each other and can be used for great destruction, and speak to humans and their sense of territoriality, their penchant to use violence to achieve our various means. And the way that fast forward 30, 40 years since Sagan was doing his most famous things, and have humans really improved life for people down on Earth? Have we really committed to exploring our place in the cosmos as we might have? It's debatable, maybe not. So again, maybe that last layer is a bit of my own extrapolation, though again with that line, "A still more glorious dawn awaits," it's hard not to think that way. But it seems like this song might function on multiple levels, even if the band and their history is the real central thematic focus. And I also enjoy the way the visuals of some of the lines, which again, I think they lend themselves to an immediate visual interpretation, but I think you can see them also as a metaphorical meaning for some of the lines, again, about the band or about an individual life trajectory. So yeah, I really enjoyed trying to follow the lyrics on this one. As I said, I think the vocals express the reflective nature of them quite well. I like the melody. I do like the acoustic guitar. I do like the flourish when it goes into the chorus. And there's some keyboard work there that it was subtle. It was, just little melodic lines, little accompanying bits. But I think it all comes together very well. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. A great opener to the second disc. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace. I forgot. The Still More Glorious Dawn. I feel like that could work as the idea of a new beginning. Yes, we've seen dawns, we've seen sunrises, we've seen majesty in the sky, but if we're serious about what we're doing, if we recognize the passage of time and the way things have changed and the fact that we're not who we used to be, a still more glorious dawn could await for them, the band Take That, or for an individual who's willing to accommodate change and to feel that they're still capable of things, even if they're not going to live forever, even if they've dealt with failure and setbacks and difficulties, and thus there's hope and optimism looking forward, not just thinking, oh, I'm old now and I'm looking back to when we were young. So yes, that's a little postscript about my lyrical thoughts. Do let me know what you think, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.